Hey there. I'm excited to announce this to you today. This is what you've been waiting for in your spiritual quest. This is something I've wanted to do for a long time, and I'm finally ready to announce it that it's ready to go. It's the Grief to Growth Community Circle. Now, this is a sanctuary where like-minded souls are united in their journey through grief and towards personal transformation. It's more than just a place, it's a beginning, it's a commitment to growth and understanding. Here you're finding not just a community, but you're entering a circle of trust and depth. You're going to engage with interactive coursework. You'll dive into exclusive podcast episodes and partake in discussions that illuminate the path from mourning to empowerment. This is a realm where every question is honored and every individual's journey is validated. To be part of this exclusive circle, visit us at grieftogrowth.com/community or look for the chat icon at the bottom of every page on the main website. Remember that entry is a privilege because I want to ensure that every member is as dedicated and genuine as you are. You must apply to join, but the journey within is worth every step. So go ahead and join us today. Check it out, grieftogrowth.com/community, and I look forward to seeing you there. Hey there, I wanted to let you know that I'm so excited that I've got my first premium subscriber to the podcast. Thank you, Jennifer, for jumping in there and being number one. In case you don't know what I'm talking about, I am going to be putting out additional bonus material to the podcast. Everything else is going to stay the same. But for people that want to support me financially, as a thank you, I'll be putting out bonus episodes. And this episode is actually an example of that. If you want to support me, there'll be a link in every episode. You can subscribe for as little as $3 a month, or you can put in as much as you'd like. And I'd love to have you on board as a premium subscriber. Here's the episode that's an example of what it would be like. I want to talk about what I think is a misperception of what happens when we die. Some people say that when we go back home, when we cross over, when we transition, that we merge back into the one. Some people say that when we go back home, when we transition, that we remain who we are. We maintain our individuality. I think that neither one is necessarily right or necessarily wrong. I think that there's a limitation of language, and that's where the misunderstanding comes from. And I'm going to talk about that in this video. Hi, I'm Brian Smith. I am a grief guide and a mental fitness trainer, and I help people who have gone through tragedy, who have gone through grief, to return to a life of joy and purpose through my Grief to Growth program. And I'm going to talk about this today because I know this can be confusing. I know this can be scary, and confusion and fear are not the things we want to have when we're here. So when I see apparent paradoxes like this, I like to look at it. What if it's both and? So I was at a conference recently where some people who had had near-death experiences were debating this. And some's experience were that when they'd gone back home, when they transitioned, that they felt connected to everything. So much to the point where they felt like they had merged into the all, that they were everything. Others said that they maintained their individuality, that they retained who they were when they crossed back over. And they insist that nothing is lost when we cross back over. So I think the reason for the confusion lies in the limitations of language. When we think about the way language works is we can only describe what we have experienced in some sense. Try to imagine describing the color orange, for example, to someone who's never seen. How would you ever even begin to describe what this color is to someone who's never seen any color? When we cross over, when we leave these bodies, we have senses. We are not limited by the five senses or five or so senses that we have when we're here. We have senses that we can't even imagine when we're here. So I think what happens is we can't describe it to people in earthly terms. We can't even put it in ourselves in earthly terms, the feelings or the experience that we had. When we're in the body, we are very much separated from other people. We can see clearly a delineation between ourselves and the person sitting next to us. We can very clearly sense the difference between me and the chair that I'm sitting in or the tree outside. But I think when we're in spirit, that those barriers are knocked down, if not eliminated, at least reduced. And we can sense things in a way that we can't even describe when we're here. We sense this connectedness to everything and everyone around us to the point where we feel like maybe we've lost our individuality. But logically speaking, is that even possible? How can we have an experience if we're not ourselves anymore? How could we remember this experience of being everything if we didn't experience from the perspective of being ourselves? So I think in the spirit world, we are both individual and collective consciousness. We can somehow be both at the same time, maybe even shifting quickly between the two. I don't know, but I don't think it's possible for us to lose our individuality and still have any experience at all. I think that's logically impossible. So whenever someone tells me they've had an experience, to me, that means that they're still an individual. There's a great analogy that people use for us and source or collective consciousness, and that's the drop in the ocean, a drop of water in the ocean. Let's pretend for a second that the ocean is made of pure water, pure H2O molecules, right? So the thing about this analogy, it breaks down when we think about a drop going into the ocean, because when we drop a drop of water into the ocean, it loses being a drop. It's no longer a drop. But if we think of ourselves more as H2O molecules, as water molecules being dropped in the ocean, that molecule retains its moleculeness. It's still an entity, even though it's back in the ocean in a larger body of water, even though it's surrounded and connected to everything else. I think that's a much more accurate analogy. I love Rumi's quote that we are not only a drop in the ocean, but we are the ocean in a drop. But Rumi might not have known about water molecules, so I think the water molecule thing is a little bit more accurate. So that's the way I reconcile these two things. Again, I don't think either side is right or wrong. I think when we go back into the collective consciousness, we will have an experience like we can't even imagine right now. But I also believe that we will retain our individual experiences, our individual personalities, our minds, what makes us who we are. What are your thoughts? Hi there. I hope you enjoyed this latest episode of the podcast, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. What questions came up for you? What did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? I invite you to visit us at grief2growth.circle.so. That's grief2growth.circle.so to continue the conversation with me and with other listeners. It's a space to sound off, to share reactions, and to go deeper into the topics from the show. I look forward to chatting more, and I hope to see you there.